Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to me sitting in front of a white slanted wall in Ohio. Hi, it's Andrew Siciliano. Welcome to yet another edition of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. This is the White Album edition, the White Wall edition of Thinking Out Loud. As we amazingly get ready for week 9, as we sit here today, we're a week ahead of the NFL trade deadline. We're a week away from something where you guys go to vote. I'm kidding. You get my point. It's fall. I'm looking out my window here in Ohio. The leaves have turned. It's time to get serious about who is in, who is out of the postseason, all those things. It is time to do another show. Thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your whomever. We appreciate you. And by we, I mean my good friend Sam Patesh, who's back in sunny Los Angeles with that very lava lamp feel. How are you?
I'm doing great. Although, I think I'm going to just take this playoff, Andrew. I think I'm just not feeling great. Just going to get out of here and let you do your thing. Yeah.
Call to the pen here for Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And Sam is tapped out. Tap on the side of his helmet. He's going to go down the hall. And I don't know, maybe feed Levi, give him a meal, and
sure.
Sam will come back. We're going to get a younger quarterback in here. Joe Flacco will now co-host the show. Actually, a kid, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, different ages. One, Sam, Joe. Anyway, so here's the story. The story is that today, and we record this on Tuesday, the 29th of October, Shane Steichen did what he had to do. Honestly, he had to bench Anthony Richardson, and he is named the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. There are multiple reasons why this had to be done. Reason number one, Anthony Richardson is just not playing well. He was 10 of 32 this past week. He ran 5. Is simply not good. He has a sub 50% completion percentage on passes both under 15 yards and over 15 yards. So he has that amazing arm. He can make those amazing throws when we won week 1, but he can't do the simple things. He can't check the easy boxes. And he has the worst completion percentage in the NFL. It's 54.4%. His completion percentage since he came into the league, 50%. You have a team. Look, I don't know, Sam, and here's the issue, that they're going to make a deep run, but they can get in. And this is a question of owing it to your locker room to try to fight and get in, your organization and your fans to try to fight and get in. Right now, they are 4-4. 7 teams make it in each conference. The Colts are 8 in the AFC. As we corner and get ready for the Africa halfway through, they are right out of a playoff spot. So the percentages, that's one side of the story. The screen you just saw there was the other side of the story. Anthony Richardson tapped out on Sunday. Like you saw him, he was tapping his helmet, universal sign for, hey, get me out of here, I'm injured. He tapped out because he was tired. I have never in all my covering football. I'm a man, he once said. I've been covering this league since I'm very fortunate, 22 years old. I have never heard of anyone or seen anyone do this, tap out and say, I'm done. Now, he only missed the play. Joe Flacco came in. They handed the ball off. And then Richardson was back on the field the next possession. But have you ever heard somebody admit it on the podium? Listen to what Richardson said after the game when they asked him what happened.
I ain't gonna lie. That was, man, tired. I ain't gonna lie. That was a lot of running right there that I did, and I don't think I was gonna be able to go that next play. So I just, just told Sam I just needed a break right there.
You can't say that out loud. I'm not trying to be a fake tough guy here. I'm just a 5'7" guy who did a hike this morning and doesn't pretend to be 1/1,000,000th of the athlete that Anthony Richardson is. But I also, like I said, no locker rooms have covered this game. I've asked a bunch of people. No one has ever heard of a quarterback tapping out because they are tired. Team leader, player in offense, Ryan Kelly says, the center who hands you the ball, snaps you the ball every play. That is not our standard. Then Shane Steichen had to make this move. He had to. But Sam, here's the issue. You knew when you drafted him that he had only a dozen career starts at Florida. The kid's barely played. And you knew that to get him to where you need him and this organization needs him to be, you had to play him and live with the growing pains. So what are you doing? Is it a one-game thing? Because Joe Flacco, much like we saw with Jameis Winston, is going to throw you-know-what out of the football. We saw it firsthand here in Cleveland last year. And well, I don't know that they're going to do it, but wouldn't surprise me if they go into Minneapolis Sunday night and beat the Vikings. And if you do that, how are you putting Anthony Richardson back on the field? You're not. And then what?
Andrew, it's really simple as far as I see it. Saying the right thing on Tuesday is pretty simple. And the right thing is we're giving Anthony Richardson a rest, a break. We're going to let him take a breather from the everyday grind, stress, and responsibility of being the starter. And we're just going to let this thing sit. As you know, though, once you win a game with another guy, all bets are off. And that's the difference. That's the difference, right? Beating Minnesota is the difference there. If that's a win, you're going with Joe. And again, as you mentioned last season with what happened with the Browns, that became Flacco's team. That's just, it's pure and simple. It's pure and simple. It became that. And that is what was getting ridden at that point. In Philadelphia, there was a little bit of a controversy. Foles had won the Super Bowl the next season. Wentz didn't start right away. Foles came, these things happen at times, obviously, with starters and backups, etc. But this is really simple. You can say the right thing. To me, there's still a massive conflict with whether Anthony Richardson can come back based on, again, what you said. You called out the right guy with what Ryan Kelly said. That means the team was wondering what the F is going on in the third quarter of that game. What is happening? I mean, yes, it doesn't look like 2nd and goal because penalties had knocked them well out of that. And it looks like they're from the 25-yard line, but it's 2nd and goal in a 1-possession game. And yes, you scrambled around a bit in a play, which, by the way, gained nothing. So all that scrambling, in fact, it was registered
he got
as
out of
a
the
sack, technically.
I mean, he was able to get out of the sack
registered.
like most players cannot do, right?
Correct.
Like, I mean,
Correct.
he threw a 280-pound guy back down to the ground and muscled his way out.
Impressive.
Right? That's why you drafted him, actually. You need to do things like that.
But there's got to be communication in the helmet that says, we got to hand this one off, which essentially they did with Flacco anyway. Even if you know that play, you can't do certain things. That's what you can communicate. But coming off of the field, this isn't a scrimmage. It makes no sense. And I shouldn't be any more passionate because Anthony Richardson is on my fantasy team and was a quarterback that people coming into the season.
Stop
exactly.
It. Don't be that guy.
No, I'm not at all. This is what I am saying, though. What I am saying is this. What the expectations were on Anthony Richardson based on the flashes that were shown last season, this was supposed to be a step forward year 2. Now I get it type of season for Anthony Richardson and the Colts. Again, you and I took a look at teams that could make the playoffs that didn't the previous year. The Colts were a very common pick in that scenario. They were one that when you and I were talking about this, I gladly raised my hand and said the Colts. They looked like a playoff team with Anthony Richardson on the field. They simply did. And frankly, they were a game away, Colts Texans, to end the season from going to the playoffs. That was a Gardner Minshew game that could have gone another way, and they would have been a playoff team. And you had to assume with Anthony Richardson, they were going to be that much better. And again, with a healthy Jonathan Taylor and what they're getting out of Pittman, this was a team, and with what Adonai Mitchell can bring to the table. Baruch Adonai. I mean, I'm sorry, but that looked, Andrew, like a team that could do something in this division and still could. Getting
It
swept by
still
the
could.
Texans doesn't hurt. That hurts. Getting swept by the Texans, that hurts, and that kills this opportunity. In many ways, it does. But if Flacco wins that game, it's Flacco's team, period. And what's nice about saying it on Tuesday the way they did, Andrew, is yes, you can now. If they lose that game to Minnesota, you can now decipher whether Flacco gave you more than what Anthony Richardson potentially can give you, although to this point has not. Frankly, his best week 1 was his best game, and that's it. Since then, I mean, there hasn't been a lot to say about Anthony Richardson, and he missed wide open throws in that week 1 loss as well.
40% completion percentage says everything. I am not going to hammer the kid because I do think it's a learning moment here. He's barely played, and he barely played in college. You knew you were going to have bumps in the road. He does deserve another shot. I'm not writing him off. His future is still bright. Like, show the kid some grace. He made a mistake. He's not going to do that again. And there is a chance that Brian Flores blitzes the heck out of an immobile Joe Flacco, and the Vikings win that game going away in primetime. And you look at it and go, wow, would have been nice to have a mobile quarterback. Anthony learned his lesson. The Bills come to town next week. Let's put him back there. There's also a chance they beat the Vikings. And then maybe they beat the Bills. That game is in Indianapolis. And then they go to New York and they beat the Jets, and Joe gets the momentum going here. The schedule is Buffalo, the Jets, the Lions, and the Patriots, and then a bye. This is an interesting their weapon, which is an old man who can chuck the ball down the field. So there is that. And Anthony Richardson is going to sit on the bench and hopefully look in a bit of a lesson. As for the quarterbacks here, let's quickly hit on Jayden Daniels. He threw an amazing Hail Mary. The Commander in my hometown is them. But let's just compare Anthony Richardson and Jayden Daniels here for a second. You have one guy who tapped out, and you have another guy that missed a little bit on Friday late in the week. You know, it was broken. He's a painful rib injury. He's a quarterback. Torques his body, twists his torso. Played. He went out there and ran the ball as well. And he went out there and led his team to victory. Two young quarterbacks, two different stories of injury or exhaustion, and two different results from Indianapolis and Washington. And again, I never like to be the guy that criticizes somebody for not playing through injury. This was I'm not playing because I'm tired, which is a bit different. All right, I am here in Cleveland, Sam, as you know, here for the 3-game homestand the Browns were on. They are now 1-1 on that homestand, and they won a game as a 9.5, 10-point dog, whatever it finally closed at for recreational purposes only this past Sunday. An inspirational performance as the entire city was and still very much is mourning the loss of Jim Donovan. We can unpack that at another time. I've talked plenty about it. It was an emotional weekend. On the football side of things, Jameis Winston was amazing. And he gave the Browns something that they had not had the entire season. And that is somebody that was willing to throw the ball downfield, keep a defense honest, open up the run game because you couldn't put 7-8 in the box all the time, and have the offense look like what it looked like a year ago, whether it was with Joe Flacco or even times with Phillip Walker, who was willing to throw the ball down the field, not always effectively, but he was willing to take those shots. And honestly, sometimes with Deshaun last year, he was willing to throw the ball down the field. I am happy for Jameis Winston. The circumstances weren't great, how he got the shot. Obviously, a player losing his season to an injury with an Achilles. But Jameis got in there, and this team rallied around Jameis Winston. Energy is infectious. His how do I say it? Well, it's his energy, his leadership. Not all leaders are loud. Some are. He is one of them. And he told every receiver during the week, I'm going to take my shots. We are throwing the ball downfield. They had 10 explosive pass. They hadn't had that all year. That was double their average or double their highest the entire season. Cedric Tillman, who scored 2 touchdowns, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore all had season highs in receiving yardage. That's all you've got to know. For the first time all year, the Browns had 20 points. For the first time all year, the Browns had a quarterback not for 200 yards, but for 300 yards. In a day and age in which nobody throws for 300 yards anymore, I'm talking throughout the league, no one throws for 303 touchdowns. That's what Jameis did. If you go back and you look at last year with Flacco, the playoff game, the loss in Houston included, and then this game as well, the Browns have thrown for 300 yards in every one of those games. Every one of them. Every one of them. Jameis opened up the offense, and now Jameis gets a shot this week, too, after beating Baltimore, who still, for my money, is the best team in football. It is. Don't yell at me. They had some flaws, and we saw them on Sunday. Jameis now gets the Chargers in here. A good team, Sam, a team I know that you like a lot. A team that's not going to make mistakes, is well coached, is going to run the football. Justin Herbert was PFF's highest rated player in week 8 at any position. But if they could beat the Chargers, they get to 3-6, which is still bad. Not good. You own your record. But then you get to a bye, and then you get New Orleans off the bye in 2 weeks. Again, week. No one is saying we're going back to New Orleans the first week of February. Nobody is saying that. Zero humans. But there is a sign of life. Winston is the one that got the paddles out.
And Andrew, it's interesting. I would say the Chargers game very much can be that make or break in some ways. I mean, this season, it's a long season for a reason. It's longer than it used to be. 17 games, not 16. Anything is clearly possible. And you go back, and there's certain instances. And if there was one more win, perhaps. But the Chargers game is fascinating. And here's the thing: the Chargers are obviously so different under Harbaugh. This is not a team that is playing. This is not a team that plays to the competition. This is a team that clearly has an identity and is doing such. But this is a team that struggled in Pittsburgh. And that's what this game looks like in my eyes. This looks like a very similar game where this Chargers team on the road, AFC North opponent, this could be a tough one for the Chargers. This is fascinating. This game really is sort of one of those make or break games, and it really could go either way. And for the Chargers, in fact, the Chargers are trying to be a playoff team. This has to be a win. This has to be a win on the Chargers' schedule. And yet the Browns are saying, we're feeling a little better. Maybe we're getting something out of Winston. We've got Chubb back. We're healthy. We've got receivers. Even though Amari's gone, we now established something in the 3 guys that you just mentioned there, and what you got at a Moore, and certainly Tillman was special. And Judy finally looks like the guy that maybe he was going to be. But the offense looked like something that was different. And yes, perhaps the Ravens dropped a chance at winning that game, but that's what happens. In every game, there are those moments. And the bottom line is after that, because here's the thing. Kyle Hamilton dropped what could have been an interception. That's fine. But guess what? What was the next play? This wasn't like he dropped the interception. The next play was the most spectacular offensive play maybe the Browns had all season. That's identifying the moment and taking advantage. You see it in baseball all the time, an error, and then the team does something with it immediately. That's what happened. Hamilton drops that, and then the dagger game-winning pass comes in. So that was all of it. And I know you wanted to, but the bottom line is we have to. I'm going to let you set it up. But with what Jameis said after the game, maybe that is the greatest part of this entire thing.
As I said, Jameis is a different dude, man. He's a different dude. And if you need more proof, listen to his post-game interview with Amanda Leonis on the field from CBS.
That you get another opportunity like you have just received in the NFL. What does it mean to lead these guys, and what could be the start of what you said is something special moving forward?
Man, it's a white boy from Detroit that I really admire named Eminem. He said, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity lasts once in a lifetime. And I know I got a quote, Eminem, he from Detroit, he right up the road, but man, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that the Lord provided me with this opportunity. I'm grateful for my teammates, my coaches, and these amazing fans.
Unbelievable performance today. Congratulations, Jameis.
Don't ever change, Jameis. Can I cross-promote here? Cedric Tillman, who caught 2 touchdowns, is a guest this week. I taped it Monday on the Bark Tank podcast that I host on the Browns platform. So you can check it out there, Browns YouTube, Browns team site, Browns app, all that. And even Cedric admitted, I was like, something in his pregame speech. Like, I was kind of confused, but we rolled with it. We love him. And then, he's the Eminem thing. I was on the phone with my parents. I'm like, you're not going to believe what he just did. That's Cedric talking, not me, but Cedric out. Jameis is a different cat. I think I told the story last week, Sam. Maybe I didn't. Jameis he walked by me in the building. And this was the day after the loss to the Bengals. He had come in and mop up, thrown a touchdown to David Njoku. And he walked by. I'm with people, and he goes, NFL Network's here. And he kept going. And I went, no, Jameis, he has his backpack on. He's heading down the hallway. He's going to leave, go to the parking for the day. No, I work here now. And he kind of looked back over his shoulder. Come on. And kept going. And then somebody else was like, no, Jameis, really, he does. He's here now. And he looked back kind of quizzically. And I called your touchdown. Great job. Dave could catch it back to the end zone, gave your guy a shot. Good job, man. He's like, okay. And kept going. I'm like, I love that guy. Yeah. Jameis Winston, everybody. He's the leader. Brown on the rate. Didn't play the rookie, the first round pick out of Clemson. Marcus Williams in the secondary was kind of benched. Eddie Jackson dropped a pick, got beaten on that touchdown. Kyle Hamilton, one of the 15, obviously, usually a lot of missed opportunities. Rashad Bateman as well dropped a would-be touchdown. What I don't get is leaving that game. I think maybe they need, help up front. Odafe never been a big sack guy. Kyle Van Noy can't do it all by himself. The tackles are good. They get pressure, but maybe they need an edge rusher. Maybe they need help in the secondary. I didn't think maybe they need a wide receiver, but that is what they did on Tuesday, a week before the deadline. They traded for Diontae Johnson from the Carolina Panthers. It's basically a pick swap. It's like they're giving up a 5, but they're getting back a 6. And if he were to leave in free agency, they get a 6 compensatory, likely. A lot of the money is already paid by the Panthers. They got him for free, basically. But I didn't think they needed another offensive weapon. It was a curious trade. From the Carolina perspective, that's all you can get for a guy that was leading receiver. Something's going on there. Don't know what, but that was an odd move on a number of levels. But back right now is going to come in and magically fix the Dallas Cowboys, Sam, who are 3-4. And as it stands right now, quite early, I realize, at the halfway point, the 13th seed FC out of 16 seeds. We said last week before the Sunday night in Francisco that if the Cowboys were to win, that's nice, but show me that you could beat them in January. We come out of that game by saying, hey, you're not going to get a chance in January to beat them. Now, viewers may push back, listeners may push back and say, wait a minute, Andrew, you just did this miraculous hopscotch to tell me that the 2-win Browns have a shot. Okay, why don't the Cowboys have a shot? Of course they do, but I don't think they're going to win the division. They're not going to get to the Commanders. I don't think they're going to get to the Eagles. I don't think they're a very good team. You can't run and you cannot stop run. To quote Apollo Creed, there ain't going to be no rematch with the 49ers. They're not going to see it again. I don't think the Cowboys, I'm not going to go full Marcus Spears here and say I'm done with them. My wife loves them. Why do I have to watch them? I'm not going to do that. But I think it's kind of over.
Andrew, that was a game, again, litmus test games. We say this all the time. And you could have said Detroit was a litmus test and they hosted the Lions before the bye week. And if that was a litmus test, well, then if we're going pass fail here, that's a fail. The Lions clearly it's a fail. And the Niners final score, you look at it 30-24. You're thinking, all right, wow, what a game. What a game. Wow. They even had the ball late, right? Had the ball late with a chance to quote unquote win. However, Andrew, I want to take you back to a year ago when the Cowboys played the Niners in San Francisco in what was then a litmus test game. You know what the score was at the end of the third quarter of that game? And that game, the final score looked uglier. But the final score, the third quarter last year, 28-10 Niners. And of course, that game ended, I believe, 42-10. Okay. So it was as ugly all the way throughout. But through 3/4 of this game, a couple of nights ago, Sunday night, 27-10. This was not a competitive game. When you go back and look at it, the separation there between what these two teams are was right there in that third quarter, and that was it. The Cowboys could do nothing offensively, and the Niners did everything they wanted to, and that game was over. And yes, CeeDee Lamb had a spectacular fourth quarter, and Dak was very good. Although, when it came down to it, and there is nobody that's a bigger supporter and has seen Dak do incredible things. Because, by the way, if you look at Dak's numbers against the Eagles versus the rest of the league, that's what we should play every week. He always rises to the level in that particular game for some reason. But with the chance to win that game, 30-24, that offense looked awful, Andrew. 4 downs and out. There was nothing going on there. And I've said it many times, Andrew, I just don't understand. From a running perspective, the Cowboys have made a living running the ball on the strength of their offensive line. And frankly, everyone from DeMarco Murray to Emmitt Smith to Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, there have been special runners. And I just don't understand. They can't run the ball. And I don't understand coming into the season. I just don't understand. Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle didn't seem like the answer. And it's not. And neither. And by the way, Dalvin Cook obviously showed nothing the year before. There was nothing to having Dalvin Cook on the practice squad. That's where he belongs.
Why are you this angry about the Cowboys?
You know what it is? I guess because for some reason in my head, that's what pushes the Eagles. And so, like, in some way, that's the motivation. So I guess deep down, I feel like that competition against the Cowboys is what really lifts the Eagles much of the time.
You should be happy that they didn't address their run game.
You're right.
Look,
it was
my good friend Daniel Jeremiah. I'm sorry to cut you off there. I'm sorry. Wi-Fi just too. My good friend Daniel Jeremiah was in town this week. I think he said it well in his pod. If the Cowboys had a DeLorean, that's what they need. It would be great because they could make Ezekiel Elliott and Cook they were 5 years ago, but they're not. They're not. Sam, get back in here. They're not. They can't run and they can't stop the run. And now look, they still have the Eagles twice and they still get the Commanders twice. All is not lost. They can win they're fine, but they don't look fine. And this is going to snowball here.
It looks like it could. It looks like
more and more agitated on the radio every week, and then who knows what.
You're right. And again, this game was not at home, but obviously to have the issues at home after the amazing win streak at home, to then be as awful 3 losses at home this season, and then to go on a road in what is your biggest game following the bye week to look like that. There's a lot of people scratching their head in Dallas, and I don't get it. But again, I've always said it. The division games will be what spell your season, and the Cowboys have everything ahead. You noted it, Andrew. The schedule this season is really interesting with a lot of teams that haven't played divisional games yet. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about the Colts. Maybe it's over for them because they lost twice to Houston. The fact that the Cowboys have everything in front of them other than one game against the Giants, that gives them a chance. That gives them a chance, and they'll still be in this. There will be a week where we say the Cowboys are a playoff team, but it doesn't look like it right now. That's for sure. And I just wanted to say one other thing just about Jayden. That pass by Jayden Daniels is if we needed more on the Jayden Daniels tour this season.
Sure.
That's the second most special play of the season. I would say the Lamar Jackson play to Isaiah Likely against the Bengals is the number 1 play. The Jayden Daniels Hail Mary is number 2. Based on what had happened with Caleb coming back in that game to lead the Bears to what looked like a sure win. That play to even buy enough time to get his receivers down there, for Noah Brown to be in position the way that he was, for Stevenson to tip the ball the way that he did, for him to have been talking to the crowd before, all that went into that I just wanted to simply stamp that was unbelievable. And even as an Eagles fan who should be rooting for the certainly for Washington to lose there, I was jumping out of my seat like a 4-year-old when that was completed.
I was at my aunt's house in Cleveland. I was about to walk out to drive back to where I'm staying here. And I was watching my iPad, and I started screaming and yelling as well, and everyone ran over and watched on my iPad. It was a fantastic play, and Tyreek Stevens, I would have suspended him, honestly. I would have flat out suspended him if I were Matt Eberflus. Not trying to tell a coach what to do, but the how do you stand up in front of the locker room if you don't bench Anthony Richardson? I don't know how you stand up in front of the locker room if you do not suspend or sit down or deactivate this week Tyreek Stevens. If you're running over there into the crowd, it's a book. You have to take some kind of action. That is just be. Cowboys, again, the whole division in front of them. The Steelers as well have not yet played a division game while we're on the topic of the schedule lining up oddly. Conversely, the Patriots played and the Jets played a division game this past week, and the Jets lost. The Patriots won. Jacoby Brissett, I am happy for you. Truly, truly, truly. And the New York Jets, like it is, they're a bad football team. You fired your coach. You have still lost 5 in a row. The defense, whatever DVOA, EPA, honestly, they both give me a headache. Whatever number you want to look at, they're not good. And you've already fired your defensive coach. Offensively, you've replaced your play call. And I am wrong. Like, I will admit when I am wrong. I really did believe, and I've told this before, that if you just brought Aaron Rodgers back, and even with his leg in a cast last year, and built a throne for him in the pocket like Dave Grohl when he broke his leg, and they built a throne for him and he could play with the Foo Fighters, I thought that he could sit back there and just sling balls around and they could win. But he looks slow and old and frustrated. And I'm not going down the Mike Florio Pro Football Talk path and suggest that maybe Aaron Rodgers, if they were to lose this week, think of the Buccaneers, that they would trade him or listen, because I don't want him. I don't know who would necessarily want him, but it ain't working. I think the end is very clearly in sight. I think watching right now, you have to ask aloud, is Aaron Rodgers really going to retire at the end of this year? Because he has this is a multi-year thing. Because you thought you're going to make the playoffs this year. I think really cares if he's saying the right thing. I think we're watching the last 9 games of Aaron Rodgers' career. I'm not rooting for it necessarily. Like, I'm not saying be gone, good riddance. But if this turns into a 6-11 team, you think you can fix that in one offseason? Maybe you can. Look, maybe you can. But 6-11 team, and I like Joe Douglas. Are you going to let Joe Douglas fix it? Or is a new GM going to fix it? They're not 6-11 yet. There's an entire second half of this season. The Jets can turn things around. They can be one of the teams that crashes the playoff party. Right now, we have 4. The number is, for 34 straight years, at least 4 new teams make the playoffs. If the playoffs were to start right now, there'd be 6 new teams in the playoffs. Jets are one of them. The Jets can still get in, but it's a lot of work.
Andrew, this is uglier than you and I thought. We both were excited to say the Jets would be one of the new playoff teams. It looked obvious.
He's one of my fantasy quarterbacks too.
There you go. I mean, look, that adds a little spice each Sunday for us. But and speaking of which, by the way, the next game is coming up quick here, Andrew. Happy Halloween, by the way. But Thursday night we've got Houston and the Jets. So that's even. So yeah, the Bucs would have been tough, but the Houston right now, that looks like a brutal opponent for the Jets. And obviously, Houston is a playoff team. This Jets team is worse than we thought. And it's funny when we talk, there's the obvious expression of, well, the Jets haven't been good. The Jets haven't been great, certainly in a number of years. I mean, we're talking about AFC championship runs with Mark Sanchez. All right. I mean, that's a while ago, right? We're talking Rex Ryan coaching this team.
They don't make the playoffs.
Incredibly relevant.
The
Jets don't normally make, but guess what? The franchise is not good, but isn't it difficult to separate from the Jets and Aaron Rodgers? Because Aaron Rodgers, almost a franchise in and of himself, Aaron Rodgers goes to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, when healthy, goes to the playoffs. That's simply it. And so what's shocking here is Aaron Rodgers healthy, and I guess we can put it in quotes. I mean, we don't know how healthy, but Aaron Rodgers, obviously in comparison to last season, is healthy. Aaron Rodgers is playing. Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers maybe didn't love the coach that he had. And Aaron Rodgers is 2-6. And frankly, Aaron Rodgers did put this team in position to win that game on Sunday in New England. And the defense, as you said, did not hold up. That was every opportunity to win that game from a defensive standpoint, considering May was already out of the game. for Jacoby Brissett to lead a game-winning drive at this point against what you're saying each week. I'm told each week the Jets have a great defense, right? I keep hearing that. The Jets have a great defense. The Jets have a great defense. Russell Wilson, after a terrible first quarter, picked them apart.
They just forget. The statistics tell you it's not good.
And period. Andrew, and this is a team, again, with Zach Wilson last season, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year. This is a team, Zach Wilson almost beat the Chiefs last season. This is a team that had a lot going right. Not to mention we believed a lot in Salah as well, and maybe we still do. But this is as bad. I mean, we talk about the Cowboys and maybe, in the NFC that's a stunning, the Cowboys at this point are underwhelming. Underwhelming versus stunning. To me, 2-6 for the Jets is stunning when you look at the schedule. The amount of winnable games. Now you look at Denver and you say, oh, wow, maybe the Broncos have something. At the time they played Denver and lost 10-9, that was inexcusable. That was seemingly inexcusable. And right now, I said it, the division games are what is going to spell this for them. They had to sweep the Patriots to make the playoffs. That's how I see it, period. Period, simple, end of discussion. They had to beat the Patriots twice. They split. It simply looks over with to me. And I'm not here to say over with for Aaron Rodgers' career or anything like that. And by the way, it still seems like Aaron Rodgers gives them the best chance to win. Of
course he does. No. I'm not suggesting he does not give them the best chance to win. But since they fired Robert Saleh, they are 0-3. Okay. They lost to a team that had lost 6 consecutive games for the first time in over 30 years. And yeah, they lose. And they're the first team in 12 years to lose a game in which they allowed fewer than 250 yards and did turnover. So it's the way it's going here for the Jets. And last word, because I really do have to wrap. You say Aaron Rodgers makes the playoffs, except he didn't his last year in Green Bay. He was 8-9 and he started all 17.
Final game of the season, Detroit, right? Yeah.
Make the playoffs. That wasn't all his fault, clearly. And that's when the Packers decided to move on. And guess what? The Packers were right. Now, been good if Rodgers had been hurt last year in the fourth play of the game. I don't know. We don't have that DeLorean. It's not here. And we're not going to get fun. Everyone, thank you for listening, for watching. Subscribe, like, download, tell a friend. And while you're at it, listen to the Bark Tank podcast as well. That's on the Browns platform. Cedric Tillman, really good. That is out there now. And this is out here now. And by the time we talk to you again, we'll have had an NFL trade deadline. Maybe we'll do Friday. Either way, regardless, go out there and vote. All right. That is a nonpartisan, good citizen reminder. For Sam, I'm Andrew. So long, everybody.